I'm Jim Czek. You're watching Kelowna Now. I have with me Lane Merrifield. 5 years to the day, we're holding another summit. You were one of the speakers at that, and I think one of the best events, business events ever held in Kelowna. People still talk about that event. That was like an amazing leadership one, and you were there speaking at it.
Yeah, it was an awesome event, and I'd been to different events in other parts of the world. It was by far the I think highest quality and certainly greatest concentration of business leaders that I'd seen here in Kelowna. It was
Yeah, we actually had two former prime ministers, that people that ran the country for 20 years on the same stage on the same day. And then, like a person of your caliber with what you've done with Club Penguin and Disney here. And I think there was 8 speakers in total. It was a jam-packed day, right? It was a big day, right? So, obviously, and then we were going to do it again in 2020. The plans were, and we had Gary Vaynerchuk that was going to headline on marketing. That was going to be our topic. And obviously, we all know what happened. And we still remember that day when the NHL said we're done in the NBA and all this things just started falling apart. And then that was the end of that event and the end of us. Well, I didn't think you couldn't really do events for a couple of years. And then we just think AI is such a big thing that we figured we would actually foray back into it. And it actually works out to 5 years of the day. It was a Friday, September 27th, 5 years ago, kind of worked out. And then here we are with an AI summit. Are you using AI a lot in your business now?
every single day, and I'm actually doing some advising and consulting with quite a few companies in the space as well. It is the best analogy I can give is the conversations feel eerily familiar. I had the joy of I think I was probably in junior high or high school the very first time that I logged onto this thing called the internet. Previous to that, I'd been a part of bulletin board systems and other things for gaming. But
I remember that.
so I mean, but I still remember it was about a 16-step process to get logged in, and there wasn't much there. And as the fever grew, I continued to hear people question, business, especially in business. Do I care? Should I care? Is anything going to happen as a result of this thing called the internet? Sounds like it's just a bunch of universities, databases, and all of their information. So I'm just going to ignore it for now. And we are at the same, if not even bigger, sea change right now in technology, and I think truly in the future of business as we were back then. I think this is going to be more dramatic, and I think it's going to happen faster than
Yeah, and I think that's the key. There is acceleration of change as opposed to what we've seen with the internet. There was a little bit of like Wild Wild West for a while. I remember downloading my first image on my computer at home, and it took forever, line by line. Right? Like an hour later, you got the image, right? And now we're watching 4K, 8K videos streaming all the time, and it's just it's all we do, right? So it's changed the world. And I look at AI and I say I think it's going to do what electricity did for businesses, right? It's going to be that much of a game changer. People that learn how to use it will likely be able to 10x themselves. And I think people that said, even back then, they said, I don't use the internet, it's stupid, right? Well, they probably, aren't as in demand as somebody that, took a look at the tools and decided to, make a life for them out of it.
Well, I mean, an analogy that I use a lot with people just to help them understand it. They said, everything up until now has required translators for us to work with technology. There's translators being software engineers. They have to go to school, typically get computer science degrees, and they have to learn how to allow us to communicate with computers and technology and get what we want out of it. For the first time in history, the computers have learned our language. And so now, pushing that power, not just through us as a business, but through our business all the way down to the end user in the way that they interact with us, is revolutionary. And we have, for the first time in history, an opportunity to communicate with ultra powerful computers, the most powerful that we've ever created, and use our own language, use natural language in order to communicate, in order to ask and get what we want out of it, right? And the prompts, it's what's called prompting. Those prompts are only getting easier, more streamlined. The computer's learning even faster how to understand us, what we're actually asking, what we're actually looking for, and the quality of the responses is only going to get better, and it is getting better every single week right now.
And what a tool for somebody like yourself, a visionary, and that you can see things and what you want, but sometimes it was hard to get it. And then now all of a sudden you can kind of just ask it, right? So you can envision it. And one of your biggest skill sets is marketing it and that vision, right? So now just think of what you can do from the back end, right? And I know one of the companies that's going to be speaking, there's a local company, a robotics company out of Salmon Arm. They do robotic mushroom picking, and they're all with vision-based learning. And I think that is one of the biggest jumps for a lot of things. We see that with Tesla's vision-based driving, and then this vision-based robotics that's pretty impressive, right? So like if you can show the software, just watch these videos and then do it. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Well, vision is one. Audio, its ability to understand and communicate back to you, as well as obviously being and sharing that way. Yeah, I mean so many of these models they call multimodal, meaning that they can see, they can look, they can share, they can and understand it. Even ChatGPT right now. I was literally sitting on a rooftop in Italy for a friend's wedding. And Amanda, my wife, said, "Hey, what is that thing down there? It looked like a big arch, something fancy that we should know." And I had no idea. She had no idea. I quickly took a photo of it in ChatGPT and just said, "What is this?" That's all I had to say. What is this? It didn't care. It didn't know where I was. It didn't know what I was looking at. It didn't know that I was up on a rooftop restaurant. And within 5 seconds, I had the answer back. And that would have taken a software developer and mapping systems and Google Maps and all this kind of stuff infinite. I did the same trick the other day from a restaurant, and I thought I'm just going to go one step further and ask, where am I standing right now as I'm taking this photo? And I did give it a hint. I said I'm in a restaurant, and it said it looks based on this, the glazing, and it told me exactly why. I think you're in this restaurant right now. This is in Manhattan Beach, California, and it was 100% right. That's the kind of stuff that is mind-boggling, and we're just at the infancy.
And I've done a lot of that stuff that you're talking about too. In fact, I actually interviewed ChatGPT in an interview just like we're doing right now. And we had the interview in a full-on conversation. And I basically have a car that drives me back and forth to work. And I talk to ChatGPT in full-on conversation. And I'm talking about energy, talking about solar versus natural gas versus all those things. And then I say, after these long discussions of 20, 25 minutes, I say, can you write me a report on that and put it in a table for me and compare the alternatives? It's like, sure, Jim. Right? And I'm just like...
Absolutely. I mean, and we haven't even really gotten into the power of agents yet, which is kind of the next evolution of being able to not just say, step one, I want you to do this. Step two, I want you to do this. Step three, I want you to do this. But instead say, hey, how I typically, what I want the end product to be. Ask me the questions, interview me about my voice, or let's have a conversation about this. And it will start jumping through the hoops to do that. Or in a case of, say, travel, we're not that far from being able to say, I need to go to New York this weekend. I want to see two of the top shows. I want to be able to, either one nice restaurant on one day and one kind of, mid-range restaurant on another, and book me the best price flight, the best priced hotel, a hotel that's close to where I want to go, get me dinner reservations, book me the shows, send me the information, and add it to my calendar. And all of a sudden, within a couple of hours, you just start seeing things popping up.
Crazy good, eh? Just crazy good.
Not science fiction. That's starting to happen now.
And then I did watch that interview with the former Google CEO, Eric Schmidt. And, he talks like the next step is text to action, which is kind of what you're talking about, text to action, where you can say, hey, I really like that TikTok app. Can you create that app for me and steal all the data? Right?
Yeah.
It's and then agents, the sales agents, where it can start calling and stuff. But again, I think, like for a person like yourself that has vision and can kind of see the market before the market develops, even you can start to put stuff to market a lot faster.
Absolutely. And the crazy thing is the power used to be a little bit like the printing, what the internet did to the printing press. Not everyone could afford a printing press, right? Back in the day, you had to be a big magazine, a big newspaper, not everyone had a printer in their backyard or in their back office, I should say, like they do now. And certainly didn't have the internet, where the moment you type something, it can be immediately distributed to millions of people. And so I think we're at the same place now where I used to tell people all the time, you're like, I want to get into this. I got an idea for a piece of software. I really want to get into software development. And they've never done it before. They barely even know a software engineer. And I used to oftentimes kind of dissuade them a little bit, or unless they really had the funds for it, to say, don't just go throwing, your life savings after an app with some developer, because if you don't know how to check them, you don't know what you're getting, you don't know the quality, on and on it goes. Now to be able to say, yeah, sit down with some of these AR software development tools and at least put together a prototype or a demo that maybe then you want to take at this stage, you want to take and get properly engineered.
Because I think a lot of people's problem is just getting their vision out. Do you know what I mean? And then translating that vision to a programmer who maybe heard half of it or whatever, and then they don't talk to you till they're done, and they're say, "Here you go," and you're just like, "What is that?" Right? Absolutely. So, and I think I understand those frustrations and hours and hours and hours and hours of code, right? Lines and lines of code, right? But the guys in Salmon Arm say that the software is writing its own code right now, right? So these programmers are actually writing themselves out of a job, right? So because it's getting smarter and smarter as it goes, right? And we're seeing that with Tesla, with the car that full self-drive, and then the Optimus robot. He's just putting the brain of Tesla inside the robot. And I guess when they first did it, the robot's walking around thinking it's a car. It's looking for a lane, right? So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the reality of this is, and some people are excited by this. Some people are terrified by it.
Yeah.
The reality is we don't know exactly how it works because it was trained to get better, and it is getting better on its own, and it is programming itself, and it is learning on its own, and it is processing the data in ways that, frankly, we've got, we know kind of the pathways we put it on. We understand some of the guardrails we put up. We've got some bumpers in place. But if you ask anyone, the greatest data scientists or AI scientists in the world, how exactly is this working? They're going to give you their best guess, but no one really knows. And that's frankly something we're going to have to let go of more and more. We are in the process of building something that can compute faster than we can. And it's the first time in human history that's the case. And so now, of course, we need guardrails. We need to make sure that we're doing it ethically. We need to make sure that we're utilizing it properly. We need to make sure that, and most high level AI conversations are including those pieces, which are good. But there's there's so much just to go. We're just getting started.
That old saying, if you can dream it, you can make it, is never more so true though, right? If you can dream it, you can probably make it. We could talk forever, and I don't want to keep you forever. I know you're a busy guy. So if you like what me and Lane were talking about, the AI Summit's going to be a whole day of this stuff with some, and we have Peter Diamandis, I'm sure you know who he is, founder of X Prize, and he's created, I guess, sparked so much technology and innovation. Like, I mean, when he did his first X Prize, it was the space race, and that was Richard Branson's Galactica that won that. And then, Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin, and then obviously SpaceX came after that. And if you look at the private space race, it's a big deal, right? That space race. SpaceX is one of the largest companies in the world, right? So, and then he's got wildfire mitigation going on, which is like a local issue for us, and also extending life. I think he's got one out there for $100 million to longevity. I think the goal was 400 years, but I think you only have to get 20 extra years to win the prize. And lots of really cool things, lots of innovation, and AI is in all those conversations, right? So I think it behooves most people to at least understand what's going on, right? So like September 27th, all day long.
Can I just add one thing? Because I share people too. We're at a moment in time where sometimes people think maybe I don't understand it, or I don't really get tech, or I don't really understand this stuff. I would say if you're not a techie person, if you haven't really dove into it before, if it's not something you're comfortable with, now's the time. All the more reason, because you don't need to be a techie anymore to be able to dive into this stuff. Educate yourself just a little bit, and you'll start to be blown away by it.
I think that's one of the most salient points, right? You don't need, like when we first started doing computers, you kind of needed to know how to tear a modem out and do all these things, right? And you were calling your computer friend to do things, but all you really need to know now is how to talk, right?
Yeah.
And if you have a vision, then you just have a conversation, right? Like I've done some things with photography myself. Like you can upload a photo of your outfit, like, and say, hey, what accessory should I put with this outfit? You know what I mean? Like you can do so many things, and you can ask it to assess your body fat. It just does so many things. And the cooler thing is it remembers your past conversations, and it builds on those, right? Because you can say, hey, we talked about solar energy 3 days ago. Can we pick up that conversation? And there it is. You know what I mean? And you can pick up that conversation. There's a lot of models being developed, and like I think Facebook is, like I just watched Mark Zuckerberg talk about Llama, and they're going to open source theirs, and you guys have done a lot of different things. So open source, and then obviously open AI was supposed to be open source, and now it's closed. And then Elon's got X, AI going, and then Google's got DeepMind and all these things. So there's a lot of different platforms, and we don't know what's even happening across the world. And China and Russia, I'll imagine they're building out their own kind of like agents and things like that. So it's kind of like the wild wild west, but there's a lot of really good product out there though. Like a ChatGPT is like I do full on conversations on a daily basis with it.
Yeah. And the product is more transparent and visible to us, or at least, more publicly accessible than ever at this stage. Again, you think of how long the internet sat just with the universities, for years, right? As a very specialized thing for universities and students. OpenAI, thankfully, has been pushing stuff to the forefront, and everyone's kind of been following that lead and chasing after, and obviously now is up to speed. We get access to things that, would have been only for researchers years ago, or at least researchers trying to figure out how to commercialize it better and all of that. And I think we should be taking advantage of it as much as we possibly can. I'm encouraging my parents, they're in their mid 70s, jump in with ChatGPT, spend time with it, ask it funny questions every day, ask it for a riddle, ask it for something fun to do, just start to play with it. And I think, for you, I'm so thankful when I saw the topic of the conversation being around AI in Kelowna, because I will say this about the Okanagan, about Kelowna. It's one of the reasons why I will continue, and I think we'll forever have a home here, is because the concentration of innovators and thinkers and dreamers and empathizers, is a whole other topic, is a higher concentration, per capita than I've seen anywhere. And so I would love to see Kelowna come out as an area and a city that is leading the way in this, and there's no reason not to.
Yeah, so this is our inaugural year for this, and we plan to do this. We're already talking about next year, making it a 2-day destination event, and we'd love to have you speak again at it. And I think that it's if we can make this a destination point for, like we've got a tech sector in Vancouver and Calgary and all that kind of stuff, and because Kelowna is such an attractive city, right? So there's so much to do here, and like, for a guy like yourself, like AI must have been just like, oh my God, where was this 5-10 years ago, right? Because it's such a freeing tool. That's why I find it just such a freeing tool to allow you to have more time to create as opposed to tasks, right? So just tasks and checking tasks and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, it's taken away the busy work and the grunt work more than it's taking away anyone's creativity. And I think that's, it's a tool, it's an accelerant, it's like gasoline on a fire. It's not going to go create the fire on its own, but it absolutely will help you accelerate whatever ideas you have.
Yeah. I rarely use Google now. I don't know. Is that for you too? Like, I mean, I just ask directly, right?
I use Perplexity for most of my search these days.
There you go.
And then obviously ChatGPT for a lot of my, and the new O1 model is phenomenal. It's, there's a whole section you could be covering there on logic and what it can do. It's pretty incredible.
I'll just share one thing with my daughter. She brought home these gummy bears because she's always going to the farmer's market and trying to get healthy stuff. She brought home these gummy bears and she said, look at this, no sugar. It says right on the front, no sugar. And I had one. I'm like, wow, that's really sweet. How is that? So I took a picture of it and I said, should I eat this? And it says, well, it's definitely has sugar. It has maltodextrin or something like that. She said, which is an alcohol sugar, right? So it says, and careful if you're eating it, that you could actually get diarrhea. And sure enough, I look at the fine print and it says, don't eat too many of these, you'll get diarrhea.
See, there you go. It's even giving you medical advice these days.
You couldn't go to Google and find all that information. You probably could spend days looking for that, trying to dig that out, right? So
the speed and efficiency and the quality of the information is really incredible.
Again, I thank you for sharing your time today, and let's work together and see if we can build this into a hub for AI, because I think it's gonna be in part of everybody's life, right? So I think it's gonna be a big thing, and we look forward to what you can create with it.
Absolutely, I'm having lots of fun already, and definitely have some other things in the works.
All right, thank you, Lane, and we thank you for watching KelownaNow.
Thank you.